Welcome to OptSus WP Chat. Today we are going to talk about how much does WordPress cost? This is one of the common questions that comes up as people are looking to build a website and considering the use of WordPress. Standard question is, how much is this going to cost me? And the typical answer is, that depends. Let's get into it. So quick introduction of WordPress. There's actually two different sides of WordPress. This is referred to as WordPress.com and WordPress.org, or the shortened version, just asking about whether you're talking about the .com or the .org version of WordPress. The way that I like to simplify this, the .com version, this is found at WordPress.com, and it is the commercial side of WordPress. They offer a free plan and upgrades for additional features. This is the for-profit side of the business that is WordPress. The .org side is the open source community. They create the code that you run on your server in order to host a WordPress website. So if you build your own server, or if you hire a hosting company to let you use some part of their server space, you can install a WordPress website on your hosting server at no cost. This is a free and open source software built by a community of developers that work on this project. That is through the .org side of WordPress. So let's start with WordPress.com pricing. That's one of the easiest options. There is a free plan. That free plan includes a WordPress.com subdomain, so you could have your website at example.wordpress.com. You also have some basic customizations, and ads are going to be displayed on your website. The way that the website is paid for is through showing those display ads on your website. There are paid plans that add a variety of different features, and depending on which plan you choose, the price is going to increase in order to give you access to all of these different features for a custom domain, removing those ads, having more access to support through email, rather than simply having access to support through the forums and message boards. There are advanced customizations, monetization, Google Analytics. You can install different types of plugins and themes with the different levels that you subscribe to on WordPress.com. You can also add e-commerce capabilities through WooCommerce if you subscribe to a sufficiently high plan on WordPress.com. Over on the WordPress.org side, the costs include your initial setup. It's free to download and install. You still need to know how to do that, or you need to hire someone to do that for you that does know how to do that. There are instructions and guides on the internet, so any of these things are things that you could learn. The bigger question is whether it's the best application of your time and resources for you to learn how to do this versus hiring somebody to do this. This is where I always talk with clients about there's a spectrum of costs. Everything is going to cost you either time or money. WordPress is free in the sense that you can invest your time to be able to do the things yourself, so that you don't have to spend money, by using the open source software that is available. On the other side of things, you might hire people to set up and run your WordPress website for you, so it'll cost you money, but it will not cost you as much, if any, time. Related to that, you've got hosting. You're going to need to have a web server up and running to be able to host your website. Typically, people go and they pay for a hosting platform to be able to run their website. Technically, you could set up a computer in your home connected to the internet and have that be your hosting server. Nobody really does that because you're looking for a more robust solution for running a hosting server than just having a desktop computer connected to the internet in your home, but that is a possibility. So again, you want to think about that spectrum. If you're setting up a business, you're going to want to spend a little bit of money to be able to have something that is a little less like a hobby and a little bit more like a business. You're going to need to spend a little bit of money on domain registration. These costs are annual and you have to renew it every year. Depending on which domain registrar you're using, this could be anywhere from about $10 a year to $20 or $30 a year. There's also themes and plugins. With WordPress, you have a very large collection of themes and plugins to choose from. Many of these are free, and some of them are paid plugins that come at a premium cost. Some additional costs related to a WordPress website if you're setting it up and managing it yourself. So we're talking about the WordPress.org version of WordPress here. You're going to need to consider security services, backup services, and developer fees for custom work. If you have your website set up with WordPress.com, part of that fee that you're paying when you do have the paid plan includes some level of security considerations and backup considerations that they have built into that platform. Even if you're using the free version of WordPress.com, the ads that are running on your website are helping to pay for these things that a lot of people overlook. This is especially important as you start setting up an e-commerce website and using something like WooCommerce. So many times I've talked with clients that think that they're going to set up a e-commerce website using WordPress and WooCommerce, and it's not going to cost them anything, and they don't have any knowledge of how to build and manage a website like that. The important thing to consider here is the security, especially if you're setting up an e-commerce website. When you're starting to have financial transactions, credit card transactions on your website becomes a higher priority target for hacking. You need to make sure that you have more robust security in place, and if you don't know how to do that yourself, you're going to have to pay somebody or purchase services to be able to get that set up on your website. So the cost can grow significantly. One of the reasons that people are interested in exploring these options, and the reason why a very large percentage of the internet runs on WordPress, is that because this is an open source platform, you can customize it in any way that you want. That's where those developer fees come in for custom work. If you use various other platforms, you run into a situation where if they haven't built out a feature or a way of doing things that aligns with what you want to do, you have a choice. You can either accept that that's not available to you, or you can move your website to a different platform. With WordPress, because it's open source, if something hasn't been created yet and you want to create it for your website, you can either use your development skills to be able to build that feature, or you can hire developers to build that feature. Anything that you can imagine, you can build on a WordPress website. As we're getting into the second half of the talk here, I want to remind everyone real quick, visit optsus.com/WPchat, and there you'll find a form where you can share your topic ideas. So if you have any questions about WordPress that you'd like to see covered here, please visit optsus.com/WPchat and let us know what you'd like covered. So here's a quick side-by-side comparison with WordPress.com versus WordPress.org. On the .com side, the cost ranges from $0 up to $65 a month, depending on the plan and the goals that you have for your website. While you're using WordPress, this is a more limited version. Over on the WordPress.com servers, they've had to make some decisions to be able to make it easier for them to host so many websites. I mentioned that WordPress is an open source platform and you can build anything that you can imagine. This is not the case on WordPress.com because they have to put those guide rails in place to make it easier to host all the different websites that they have. This is a wonderful place to start, particularly if you're comparing to other platforms like Wix, Squarespace, and Weebly. The free website builders that those services offer are similar to the free WordPress service offered on WordPress.com. One key difference is that as your business grows, if you eventually need to move to a WordPress.org website, if you've already built your website on WordPress.com, you can export that site and you can bring it over to WordPress.org installation where you have more control and you have access to more features. So as your business grows, you don't have to go and rebuild the website. Many, many times I've seen people start by building their site on Wix, Squarespace, or Weebly, or various other builders of these types. And when they're ready to grow their business beyond the capabilities of those website builders, they end up having to rebuild the entire website. That is something that could be well into the future of your business, and perhaps you're not too concerned about it right now, but if you are concerned about the long-term growth of your business, I would recommend sticking with WordPress.com so that way you can easily transition to WordPress.org. Over on the WordPress.org side, The costs vary considerably based on hosting, the domain, themes, plugins, but I want to provide a rock bottom pricing here. You could technically get hosting and a domain name, and if you do all the rest of the work yourself, you could be looking at spending under $20 per year for the absolute cheapest setup that I could possibly find. I want to be perfectly clear, I don't have any websites that are running on hosting and domains that would cost that little. My personal websites, even with me doing the work myself, cost a little bit more than $20 a year, but if you wanted to get to the absolute rock bottom, that's about as low as you're going to get. A realistic plan is that you want to be budgeting at least $3,000 to work with a professional to be able to build and manage your website. So something in the neighborhood of $3,000 per year gets you to the point where you're starting to work with professionals that know how to build and manage WordPress websites. You want to, with WordPress.org, you want to be able to let your imagination run wild. This is an open source platform, and so anything that you can dream up can be built. I frequently get questions from clients asking, can we do X, fill in the blank. And the more important question is not can we, because we can build anything that you can imagine. The more important question is should we, and how does this thing that we're planning to build actually connect with the business and the visitors on the website that you're trying to serve? How does this actually serve your audience? Those are the questions that you want to start with rather than can we do a thing, because in the world of open source software, anything that you can imagine is a possibility. You just have to get out there and build it. So let's get to the point of this question. How much does WordPress actually cost? And like I said at the beginning, it depends. If you just need a very basic website to get started, WordPress.com is the solution. The costs are relatively low. They have a free option, so you can get started at literally zero cost. You're going to have to make some compromises. You're not going to have access to the same themes and plugins. You're going to have ads running on your website, and you're not even going to have your own domain name. But technically, you can have a website up for $0. As you start having some revenue coming into your business, you could go through a series of upgrades on WordPress.com, gradually increasing your cost month over month until you get to the point where you're starting to bump into some of the edges of where WordPress.com is no longer the right solution, and you're ready to move over to a more custom solution with WordPress.org. At that point, the costs are going to be highly variable. I have worked on projects for clients that have cost a few $1,000s per year. I've worked on projects that have cost tens of thousands of dollars per year. All of these being built on WordPress, and the prices can go significantly higher than even that range. One last reminder, please visit optsus.com/WPchat to share your topic ideas, and don't forget to like and subscribe to keep up with what's going on with the world of WordPress.